Mike Fallon is the lead hitman in an organization run by Big Ray, a former hitman. Ray owns a small pub, Oasis, where only hired killers working for him can get into. Every killer in the organization prefers his own method of eliminating targets. Carnage Cliff is a healthy and strong man who prefers brute force, often uses his huge axe to eliminate victims. However, customers do not approve of this method of elimination. Pete is a master of using poisons that can easily kill a person. Mick and Mac are former special forces and mercenaries. They own all kinds of weapons and fight hand-to-hand perfectly. Usually they work together to create the appearance that the victims were killed by street gangs. Jane is a great fighter and a master of cold weapons, including katana. Fred is a mysterious old man who likes to experiment. He once killed an entire football team with the latest poison gas. And finally, Mike himself is the best of the best. He deftly makes each of his murders look like it was an accident. Milton plays an important role in the organization. He contacts customers, takes orders from them, and pays for them. Milton distributes orders among his hitmen, but most often gives orders to Mike. Having received an order for a businessman, Mike waits for a drunk man at his house and arranges everything as if the unfortunate man decided to get into the loop himself. The killer does not consider his victims to be people. They are only a way for him to make good money. There is an order for a heavy metal band. Mike pours a glass of water on their equipment, which leads to a short circuit, and all the musicians immediately die. As usual, the killer goes to a pub in a dangerous area of the city, where various scumbags gather to relieve stress. Mike provokes drunken customers into a fight and beats them until he feels relieved. When the killer returns home, he remembers his childhood, when he was often beaten by hooligans and took away his earned money. One day, Mike noticed a suspicious man who secretly entered the house with a gas cylinder, and shortly after that there was an explosion. The guy decided to follow the man, who turned out to be an assassin. Mike persuaded Ray to take him as an apprentice in order to take revenge on the cruel leader of the hooligans. The killer, reluctantly agreeing, tried Mike in the case, forcing him to deal with the offender. Mike broke into the hooligan's apartment, glued the bill to the antenna on the balcony, and hid inside. As soon as the owner returned home and tried to take the bill, Mike killed him by pushing him off the balcony. Ray taught Mike how to fight cool and shoot weapons. As a result, Mike became the best hired killer and replaced Ray. Now Milton is ordering Mike to kill Daniel's accountant. The killer waits a long time and finally shoots an air rifle at the wheel of a passing car. The car loses control and crashes into the accountant, leaving a mess on the wall. It seems like an accident. Milton surprises Mike for the first time by sending the killer himself to the customer for payment. However, another killer is waiting for him at his destination and tries to kill Mike, but Mike manages to hide behind the car and avoid the shots. Mike quickly realizes that he is facing inexperienced killers. He easily defeats a man in a melee and then breaks his neck. Mike sets up the scene in such a way that it looks like an inexperienced killer fell off his motorcycle and died, breaking his neck on the curb. Mike returns home and tries to find out who wanted him dead. Suddenly, Charlie, a close friend of his ex-girlfriend Beth, calls him and informs him that she is dead. Mike and Beth recently broke up because she didn't like his selfishness, and he couldn't stand her constant conversations about environmental protection and pollution control. Charlie shocks Mike with the news that Beth was pregnant with his child, but never told him about it. Mike uses his connections to get the case files on Beth's murder at the police station, and then goes to her apartment. An experienced killer investigates the circumstances of the crime and comes to the conclusion that the murder was not a random act of drug addicts, but a planned murder of professionals. Recognizing the familiar handwriting of the killers, Mike realizes that Mick and Mac did it. The killer comes to the mercenaries, and they immediately admit that they killed Beth on Milton's orders. They justify themselves to Mike and say that they did not know about her pregnancy. For them, it was just another job that they had done in cold blood. The mercenaries' words infuriate Mike, and he attacks them. Experienced fighters put up serious resistance to the killer, but he still surpasses them and brutally beats them. After that, Mike continues his investigation. The killer approaches Charlie and asks her, "Who would want Beth dead?" The girl replies that her friend was collecting secret information about a large oil company whose activities seriously threaten the environment. A copy of the investigation is most likely on Beth's parents' home computer. Suddenly, Carnage Cliff breaks into Charlie's apartment, intending to hack her with an axe. Mike gets into a fight with his colleague and strikes several hard blows, while Charlie stabs the killer in the shoulder. Then Mike throws the big guy on his own axe, and he gets mortally wounded. Carnage admits that Milton gave him the order to kill Charlie and soon dies. Mike tells Charlie to find a copy of the investigation of the deceased Beth and contact him. After that, Mike goes to the fitness center where Milton relaxes to find out the whole truth. The man under pressure admits that the murder of Beth was ordered by Leonard Kent, the chief financial specialist of the oil company, which the girl was interested in. Charlie finds a backup copy of Beth's investigation and tells Mike that a large oil company has obtained permission to drill a well in an environmentally protected area by bribing influential politicians. Beth got this information from an oil company accountant named Daniel, whom Mike had recently eliminated. The killer breaks into the office of the oil company, where he finds Leonardo Kent, whom Milton pointed out. A terrified Kent admits that the owner of the company found out that Daniel was leaking classified information to environmentalists and ordered his own accountant to be eliminated. Kent contacted Milton and gave him the order to eliminate Daniel, and the entire conversation was recorded on a tape recorder just in case. Mike takes the recorder from Kent, and at that moment Mick and Mac break into the room to kill Mike. Mike hides from the killers, while Kent is killed by gunshots. It turns out that Big Ray found out from Milton that Mike was hunting for their client, and realized that this threatened the security of the entire organization. After that, he ordered his subordinates to eliminate the killer. Meanwhile, Mike rushes at them and engages in hand-to-hand combat. Mick shoots Mike, but Mike hides behind the fighter's body, forcing the mercenary to kill his partner. Mike then knocks Mick out with a fire extinguisher. Poisonous Pete tried to poison the killer, but he held his breath and killed the opponent with his own knife. Fred says that Big Ray ordered the killer to be killed. However, Mike easily knocked out the old man and took the poisoned patch. Mike got on the motorcycle and quickly got to the owner of the oil company, who was guarded by Jane on the orders of Big Ray. The girl turned out to be an experienced fighter and gave a serious rebuff, but the killer still managed to win over her. The killer approached the owner of the company, who offered him a huge amount of money in exchange for a living. However, Mike was not interested in money and cut off the rich man's head. Mike returns to his hideout, where he runs into Big Ray and Milton. The killer listens to a recording on a dictaphone, which confirms that the businessman ordered the murder of Daniel's accountant, as well as environmentalists Bad and Charlie. The businessman asks that all three orders be carried out by one killer, and then the killer should be eliminated. For all this, the businessman paid a huge amount of money. Milton took almost all the money for himself, and then instructed Mike to kill Daniel. Milton knew that Mike wouldn't fulfill the order for Beth, so he decided that Mac and Mick would do it. Then he sent Carnage to kill Charlie. In addition, Milton hired an outside assassin to kill Mike. However, this killer turned out to be inexperienced, and Mike easily coped with him. After learning that Milton had betrayed the organization and switched sides, Big Ray got angry and attacked him. Mike gave Milton a poison patch, and Milton died shortly after. Big Ray was furious with Mike, who had destroyed his entire organization in a few days. The owner of the pub ordered Mike never to appear in his establishment again, and the killer thought about changing his dangerous profession.